Hi guys, this is Brad from Pathway to Oz, and today I'm going to run through some of the most commonly asked questions we get asked in regards to studying carpentry in Australia. So hopefully this will sort of help you get a better understanding and answer some of the questions you might have if you're considering doing this type of study. So first up, the question we get asked most: can foreigners do an apprenticeship in Australia? Now, unfortunately, the simple answer to this is no. To do an apprenticeship in Australia, you must be either a permanent resident or an Australian citizen. It's really the only way it can happen. However, the closest thing you can do to doing an apprenticeship in Australia is coming out on a student visa and studying a trade program. So carpentry being one of those, and that is done in a format that's delivered a lot more in a classroom and workshop type facility. And basically during that time you will do vocational placement, so you get a lot of good on the job training and stuff like that as well. And basically it will turn a 4-year carpentry apprenticeship type of thing into a 2-year study program. And then if you are to become eligible for that postgraduate visa, you can then go on to doing your 1-year full-time work in that field. Where are the programs delivered? Now, the programs are delivered in some wonderful locations in Australia. You can study carpentry in Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne and Perth. Personally, I would recommend the Gold Coast because it has some of the best facilities, and I may be a little bit biased because that's where the Pathway to Oz head office is based. How do you get started? All right, now this is where Pathway to Oz comes into it. Now we try to keep this process as simple as possible for you. So basically we would have a chat with you via email, phone, Skype, Facebook, whatever's easiest, and go through your best options and work out which program is going to be best for you and your situation. We then look after all of your enrolment into the institution, and as well as that, we have our migration agents process your student visa. So it's really simple from your end, and we sort of look after absolutely everything we can for you to get started and get underway with your study in Australia. How often do you attend college? Now, generally speaking, you're at school 2 to 3 days a week, but this is dependent on the institution. Now, those days, of course, are again, depending on the institution. Different schools run their programs in different ways, but some schools do run night classes and weekend classes, so you can get the most out of your study experience as well as giving you time to work within the industry and get that sort of practical real world experience within the sector. When do I do the vocational placement? Now, vocational placement is very, very important part of your course. Now, the schools do sort of do this differently as well. So when we're sort of organising what school is going to be best for you and your situation, we can talk about how the vocational placement works. But generally speaking, the most common way of doing it is they'll have 4 blocks every year. So that might go for a week, 2 weeks, that sort of thing. And you'll be on site full time with a carpenter, learning those skills that you've sort of done in that classroom and workshop format, and putting those skills to work in a real world building scenario. So getting that practical experience is so important, because it's one thing to do it in a classroom, but when you're out on site, you face different challenges and things like that. So you really want to get serious with the vocational placement and make sure that you're following that process and doing all your vocational placement that you need. How long does the program run? Now, this can be a bit confusing if you are doing a bit of research into this yourself. The program runs either 1 year Cert 3 Carpentry or a 2-year Cert 3 Carpentry. Now, this is just dependent on how the school has chosen to structure their program. So with the 1-year programs, it's fine to do a 1-year carpentry program, but it just must be packaged with the right follow-on program. So something like a Cert 4 in building and construction with the building focus, or a diploma. But you've got to be very, very careful about the follow-on program you select. Now, that's where we work really closely with our clients, Pathway to Oz and the team here, constantly monitor immigration changes and program changes. So we're always making sure that our clients are on that right pathway to reach that end goal. When can I start? This depends again on the college that you select. Now, some institutions like TAFE Queensland and some of your bigger providers, they only have 2 intakes per year, and that is January, February and July. Now, with the private providers, you do get a bit more flexibility with that, and some have monthly intake. So Pathway to Oz will work with you to find the best institution that will work within your time frame for when you want to start your study. And finally, how much does the program cost? Now, again, this varies dramatically from institution to institution, but generally speaking, you'd be looking at about $10,000 to $13,000 a year. And the big bonus of this is that the schools offer payment plans to the student. Now, the institution decides on how those payment plans will work, and the team here at Pathway to Oz will discuss all of this with you and find the one that's going to be right for you in your situation. But don't think by any means you have to have all that money all up front and all at once. So that's basically it. Hopefully that has answered some of the questions you might have had about thinking about studying carpentry. And just remember, if you do have any other questions or want to look at what your best options are, you can contact the team at Pathway to Oz anytime.